So hello everyone, I welcome you all to Android Study Jams session 3, and I am Vidit Chawda, a computer science engineering student at GHRC and also the facilitator of Android Study Jams in our college. So in the previous sessions, we studied about the basics of Kotlin, in which we studied different data types and difference between val and var keyword. Then we studied different operators that we have in Kotlin, and then we studied control statements like if else, and when, which is basically the replacement of switch statement in another languages like let's say Java and C++. Then we saw different loops like while loop, do while loop, for loop, and arrays. We studied arrays, and at the end we covered functions. And after that, we studied about what is Android Studio. We studied different tools that we use in Android Studio, and we made a simple, very basic application called birthday application. So now in the session 3, we are going to study some more topics on Kotlin, or we can say the object-oriented programming in Kotlin. Some of the topics of object-oriented programming in Kotlin. Since in the third unit of the pathways, you can see uh, the application, or you can make the you have to make the application which uses a recycler view and which includes some topics of object oriented programming like data class, abstract class, and interface also. So before doing or before completing that, we need to know these topics before. So let us jump to idea IntelliJ and start coding. So first we'll create a new project in Kotlin. Let's name it as classes. Okay, so the file with name class already exists. So let us make it classes 1, classes 2. Okay. So just right click on source file, click on new and click on file. Name the class with class.kt. So to declare a class in Kotlin, the syntax is first write a class keyword, then the name of the class, let's say the student class. So this is how we declare, or this is the syntax of declaring a class in Kotlin. So now, since we use a primary constructor in the definition of a class of a header itself, so we'll first study about constructors or primary constructors. So the syntax of declaring a primary constructor is just write the circular brackets after the name of the class and write the name of the parameters, let's say roll number, which is going to be of int data type, and the name of the student, which will be of string data type. So these are the two parameters that we are going to have in our primary constructor. So before that, why do we use constructors and what are constructors? So constructors are basically the constructors basically helps us to initialize the attributes of the particular instance of a class, and the constructors are uh, called at the time when we declare a object of the class. Okay, so if we want to initialize some values or the properties of the instance of a class, we can do it using constructors. So let us declare some attributes of the class. First will be roll number, and it will have the value which is going to be passed at the time of the declaration of the instance, and which will be copied in this roll number, and we'll simply store this roll number in the attribute. So we'll create another attribute called name, of string type, and which is going to have again going to have the value which will be passed, or the string which will be passed at the time of declaration of the instance of this class, and which will be copied in this variable, and will simply store it in this attribute. So we can also create another attribute called marks of, let's say, again of int data type, and initially it has a value, let's say 45. So this is going to be the default value. If we initialize, or if we don't initialize some value, or if we don't update some value, by default it is going to have a 45 value inside this variable, and if we try to print it in the main function, it is always print 45 if we don't initialize or update its value in future. So now let us try to instantiate this class in the main function. So to declare a function, we use a fun keyword, then main, and let us instantiate this. So the syntax of declaring an object of a class is first use a var keyword followed by the name of the keyword, let's say s1 or student1. After that, the name of the class, student, and inside these circular bracket we need to pass the parameters. So first it is going to have the roll number, and after that it's going to take the name of the student one. So let's say the roll number of the student one is 1 and the name is with it. So now for the object S1, the value of roll number will be 1 and the value of name is going to be with it. And by default, the value of marks is 45, and we have not updated or changed the value, it is going to be 45. So now let us try to print all the attributes in the main function. So the string will be roll number is, so to bind this string with the value that we want to print, we use a plus operator. So we'll simply write s1 dot. So to access the attribute of the particular instance, we use a dot operator. So we'll write s1 dot roll number, and it will be printed. The value inside the roll number for that object s1 will be printed. So the name is plus s1 dot name, and marks is s1 dot. So now let us try to print this. Let us try to run and see what it is going to print. So you can see the roll number is 1, name is with it, and the marks is 45. So now if we want to change or update the marks, uh, we can do it, and we can directly access this marks attribute inside the main function like we did here using a dot operator, and we can update the value. Let's make it 50. And now since it has been updated and it will print the same, we will not have 45 to be printed in the terminal. The value, since the value has been updated to 50, the output is going to be 50. So let us print and see what is the output. So you can see the value has been updated and the value has now become 50. So this is how we declare a class. We create the instance of a class, and this is how we declare a primary constructor and will pass the values. at the time of declaration. So now let us see one problem that we face while declaring or using a primary constructor. Uh, so that problem is we cannot add the block of code here in the header itself. So if you want to add a block of code while using a primary constructor, you can explicitly write a init prefix or a init keyword followed by the code blocks, and inside these code blocks whatever code you are going to write will be executed when the function is going to be called. So now let us try to write a code block of code inside this. So let us print the constructor has been invoked. So since the constructor is called when the object of the class is created, these block of code will be executed at the same time. So let us try to run code and let's see what is the output. So you can see the constructor has been invoked, has been printed. So it is printed before all these the three print statements because we have created the constructor attribute of this class, or sorry, the object of this class before printing these three statements. So at the same time, when the object is created, the constructor is called and the block of code will be executed. So now we have completed the primary constructor. So now let us talk about the secondary constructor. So to we can instead of writing the or passing the attributes or the values in the header itself, we can use a secondary constructor and we can pass the values explicitly inside the constructor inside the class. So that can be done using a secondary constructor. So let us declare a class called employee. So we have made a class called employee. Now if we want to declare a secondary constructor, the syntax is first write a constructor keyword, then inside a circular bracket simply pass the attribute that you want to initialize. So let us pass employee ID, which will be of data type int, then employee name, which will be of data type string. So it will followed by this it will be going to have the code blocks inside which we are going to write the block of code. Unlike the primary constructors, that we have to use the init keyword to explicitly uh, write the block of code for that particular constructor. In secondary constructor we can directly write it. So let us print the secondary constructor has been invoked. So invoked means called. So the secondary constructor has been called. So now let us try to instantiate this class in the main function. So let us write var keyword followed by employee1 pre1, then the name of the class, and we need to write the or we need to pass the attributes or pass the values for the parameters. So first we'll pass the parameter which is going to be the ID of the employee, and let's say the ID is 1, and then we'll pass the name of the employee. Let's say it will be Vidit. us try to simply run the program and let's see what is the output. So the output is the secondary constructor has been invoked. So as I told you that the constructor is called when the object of the class is created. So in the main function we have just created the object of the class. So it is going to print the block of code that we have written inside this code blocks of the constructor of the secondary constructor. So this is how a secondary constructor works in Kotlin. So now let us talk about the access modifiers in Kotlin. So in Kotlin, access modifiers are basically used to restrict the accessibility of the attributes that are declared inside the class to a certain level. So there are four different types of access modifiers in Kotlin. Uh, First one is private, public, second is private, third is internal, and the fourth one is protected. So let us first talk about the private access modifier. So before that we'll create a new class called student class, and let us create an attribute, a public attribute called roll number, which will be of int data type, and let us initialize it with 0. So now we have created a class called student and we have declared a public attribute. To create a public attribute we simply write a public keyword before the var keyword or the before declaring the attribute. So now let us try to access this public keyword outside this class inside the main function. So let us first instantiate this class. So for that, first write a var keyword followed by name of the object is equals to the name of the class student. So we have created the object of the student class. So now let us try to access. To access any attribute, we use a dot operator. So simply s1 dot roll number is equals to, let's change the value by 1, and now let us try to print the roll number. The roll number is plus s1 dot roll number. So now let us try to run the code and see what is the output. So you can see the output is the roll number is 10. So the value is updated and we can easily access the public access the attributes which have been declared using the public access modifier. So this was a public access modifier. So and after that we have a private access modifier. So let us declare another attribute with a private access modifier. Now let's say name, which will be of string data type, and let us initialize with an empty string. Okay, so we have declared another attribute which will be of public I mean private access modifier. So now let's try to access this attribute in the main function which is outside the class. So according to the definition of the private access modifier, will not be able to access it in the main function, since the attributes which we have declared inside the declared using the public access modifier inside the student class or inside any class uh, can only be accessed inside the that particular class, not outside the class like we are doing here. We are trying to access that this attribute in the main function, so it will surely give us some error. So let us try to access. Let us initialize it with, let's say, with it, and now let us try to run the code. So you can see the you cannot access name since it is a private access, since it is a private attribute inside the student class. So let us comment it out and let us talk about our third access modifier, which is internal. So our third attribute will be marks, let's say, which will be of data type int. Okay, let us initialize it with 0. So what does this internal access modifier do? So this the attributes which we have declared using internal access modifier will be visible inside the same module. So in access in Kotlin, the internal modifier is newly added modifier, and that is not supported by Java. And internal basically means that it will be available inside the same module, and module here means a group of files that are compiled together. Okay, so the attribute which we have declared using internal keyword will be accessible inside the files that will be compiled together. So our fourth and last access modifier is protected. So before using this protected access modifier, we first need to study inheritance, since the definition of the protected access modifier is it is visible inside the same class, but and also they are visible inside the subclasses of that particular class. So first we need to study inheritance to declare a subclass of the student class. So let us talk about inheritance first. So the inheritance in Kotlin, it is like a very important topic of an object-oriented programming, uh, since it enables the reusability and it allows all the features of the base class, or we can say all the attributes of this base class that we have declared here, to be inherited by the new class or the derived class. And it does not mean that you cannot add any feature to the derived class. So don't get confused. It can add some more features of its own. So let us declare a derived class. So first let us complete this code. Let us declare our fourth attribute. Let's say result of data type string, and let us initially store pass into it. So now let us create a new class, and which will be derived from the student class. So to declare a class, we'll write a class keyword, and let us say the name of the class is A. And to derive a class from some another class, we just write a colon followed by the name of the class from which we want to derive it, followed by the circular brackets. So this is the syntax of inheritance or deriving a class. So you can see that it's showing us some error, which says this type is final, so it cannot be inherited from the student class. So it is saying that the student class is already final. So in Kotlin, by default, all the classes are final. Final means they cannot be changed in future, or before inheriting these types of classes, we first need to write a open keyword before the class. So now we have written the open keyword, and you can see that the error has gone. This open keyword simply allows this class to derive some another classes from it. So now let us declare a function which is going to access this result attribute of this particular class. So let us see that since we have created a used a protected access modifier. So let us see that we can access this access modifier, the attribute inside this derived class. So let us write the function. The name of the function is, let's say, get name. So the since the result is of string data type, the return type of this function is also going to be string. So now let's simply return result. So you can see it is not showing any kind of error. We can simply we have easily accessed this result attribute in its subclass. So this was the protected access modifier. Now let us try to print it in the main function. Let us try to access this in the main function through a get name or a getter function. So the name, or sorry, the result s1 dot result. So before that we need to initialize with some value in the main function. So let's say result is equals to fail. So you can see, as I told you, that we cannot access this protected in the main function. The protected attribute can only be accessed inside the class and its subclasses. So here we cannot access this since we have defined a protected keyword before declaring the attribute. So you can see we cannot access result since it is protected in the student class. So we cannot do this since we have restricted its access in the main function using protected keyword. So we have completed our the different types of access modifiers in Kotlin. So now let us talk about the data class in Kotlin. So the data class, the name itself suggests that this classes deals with the data of the class or the data of the let's say object of that particular class. So there are some rules of declaring the data class or creating a data class. So let us try to create a data class, and at the same time we'll try to learn the different rules and what about the data class. So to declare a data class, we simply use a data keyword, and after that class followed by the name of the class, let's say user. And the first rule of declaring a data class is uh, all the primary constructor parameters need to be marked as val or var. So unlike we did here, we just write the name of the parameter and followed by the data type of it. But while we are using a data class, we need to specify var or mark the parameter by val or var keyword. So let's say our first parameter will be name, which will be of string data type, comma var, let's say id, which will be of int data type. So here we have declared a data class. So now let us create a main function to instantiate this class. So first we'll write a var keyword followed by the name of the object, let's say user1 is equals to name of the class, and now we have to pass the parameters, since we have declared a primary constructor here. So our first parameter is the name, which is of a string data type, so we'll pass the name, let's say Sam, comma, id will be 10, let's say. So we'll declare one more object of this class, of this data class. Let us try to initialize it using using the primary constructor. So let's say we pass Peter to it, and the id is 11. So you can see that we have created a data class with a primary constructor having two parameters. First one is a name parameter of string data type, and the other is a id parameter of int data type. And then we have declared a main function, uh, which has two objects of this class. First one is user1, and we have passed two parameters, Sam and 10, using the first primary in the first primary constructor. And then we have created the another uh, instance of this class, user class, and we have passed Peter and 11 as a parameter of the primary constructor. So now let us try to directly print the attributes directly using the name of the object that we have created. Let's say print ln user1, print ln user2. So let us try to run the code and let's see what is the output. So you can see in the output we got user name Sam, id 10, user name Peter, and id 11. So this is the advantage of using a data class, since it directly deals with the data of the uh, attributes, data of the attributes that we have initialized. So let us try to do the same thing by removing this data keyword. So now you can see, let us print and see what is the output. So here you can see some garbage value or the address values where these uh, this attributes or these variables are stored has been printed. So this is why if we remove this data keyword, the output will not be equal to the values which we have initialized, because it has nothing to do with the objects. Since it is a data class, it deals with the data. So now let us again make it data, and let us try to run. So these were the data types, I mean the data classes in Kotlin. So we have completed our first part of this session, which was object-oriented programming in Kotlin. So now we'll make the application, which is going to be a dice roller application. So image view also. So you can do it through align. Just click on horizontal and vertical. You can see the constraints has been added. So now since we have to change, we are not actually rolling the dice here. We are having 6 different images of the dice that we are going to change according to the number that or the outcome of the dice. So we are going to have 6 different images. So I have downloaded 6 different images for that. uh, so So first I need to copy this all these 6 images to the drawable folder. So here inside the drawable folder, I'll simply right click and I'll paste all these 6 images. So you can check all the 6 images have been copied in the drawable folder. So now we have since we have created our user interface. So now let's get back to the Kotlin file and let us write the logic. So first we need to import a button so that we can define the action that has to be performed when the button has been clicked. So for that first we need to create a variable called val, let's say btn or button. Since this is going to store the reference of the button, in Kotlin we used to write the data type here after the colon. So here we are going to simply write button button is equals to find. We are going to find the view by using its ID. So for that we have a function in Kotlin in Android Studio which is called find view by ID, and here we are going to simply write button again, and after that inside this circular brackets we'll write r dot id dot the id of the button that is present in this XML. So just click on the button and in the attributes you can see the ID, it is button, so copy it and simply paste it after r.id.button. So now the button, you can see the button has been imported here. So now we have imported the button. So now we are going to use a higher order function which is called set on click listener. This set on click listener function is used to define the whatever things that has to be performed or whatever action that has to be performed when the button will be clicked. So let us write the function for that. Since we have declared a variable called button which is storing the reference of the button, so we'll write button dot set on click listener, and inside this set on click listener we are going to write the actions that has to be performed when the button is clicked. So for this we are simply going to declare a function, let's say function called roll dice. This function is going to be we are going to call this function roll dice inside this on click set on click listener, and this function is simply going to have the logic of the action that we are going to perform when the button will be clicked. So we need to have so before we click or we start writing the code inside this roll dice function, we also have to create a function which is going to return us a random number between 1 to 6. So we'll also create a function for that, let's say inside this function only. So let's say name of the function is, oh no, sorry, outside this function, let's say function random number. So this function is going to take the argument which we are going to pass when we'll call this function inside this function, inside this roll dice function, which is going to be a number of int data type. And since this function is going to return us a number, a random number between 1 to 6, so the return type of this function should be int. So now we'll simply return a random number between 1 to 6 using a dot random function. So for that we'll simply write 1 dot dot the number. This number is simply the number which we are going to pass inside this function when we are going to call this function in this roll dice function. So this is going to be that number. So now we'll simply write dot random, and it is going to return us a random number. So whenever we are going to click on this button, this on click listener will be uh, called, and inside that we have called a roll dice function, and inside this roll dice function we are again going to call this function, and every time the button will be clicked, this function will be called, and we are going to get a random number between 1 to 6. So we have now created a function which will return us a random number. So now we have to store this random number inside some variable. So let us declare a variable, let's say var dice, which is going to have the random number, and let's pass 6 since we want the number between 1 to 6. So we have passed 6 here inside the function call. So now similarly, like we imported a button, we also have to, like in this design view, you can see that we need to change the text view, text of this button, text of this text view also. So we need to import this text view, and we also need to import the image view also, since there are 6 different images. So we need to change the replace this image with the image of the dice according to the number that has been returned by this function. So for that we need to import these two views, this text view and this this image view inside this function. So for that we'll simply write val text view colon text view is equals to find view by id. Here we are again going to write a text view, then we'll write r dot id dot the id of this of the text view that we want to import. So we want to import the this text view, so the id of this text view is simply text view. So we'll copy this id and we'll simply paste it here. So now we want to import the image view. So for that we'll simply write iv colon image view is equals to find view by id, and we'll write r dot id dot the again the id of this image view. So the id of this image view is it is also simply image view. So we'll again copy it and we'll paste it after id. So now you can see that we have inserted or imported a image view and again a text view inside this function. So now let us try to declare a variable which is going to have a lucky number. The lucky number which is going to be let's say here it should be between 1 to 6. So we are going to have a lucky number to be 4 here. So now we are going to simply use a when statement which will help us to like declare or define the logic for the different outcomes of the dice. So we'll simply write when dice So what does this dice have? Okay, so the D should be capital. So this dice basically has the random number between 1 to 6. So when the value of dice is equal to the lucky number, change the text of the text view, text TV dot text is equals to you won. So TV dot text means that the TV actually has the reference of this text view widget. So and the dot text will it will help us to change the text of the text view when the value of dice is going to be equal to the lucky number. So when it will be equal to the lucky number, we should display that you have won the game. So we'll simply change the text to be you won. So we also have to now change the text or we also have to declare the logic for the different values for of the dice. So when the value is 1, so change the text of the text view to be, let's say it's 1, try again. So instead of like writing it again and again, I'll copy it and I'll do it for all the other values of dice. So I'll copy it for the 5 times. So since the lucky number is 4, so we'll not write the code for 4. We'll just write for the code for 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6. We also have to make changes here. 2 should be 2 here, 5 and 6. So now we have created a when statement. So whenever we'll be clicking on the roll button, this function will be called. Inside this, the roll function will be called, and roll function will call this function, which is going to return a random number. And the random number, let's say it has returned us 1. So the value of dice will be 1 now, and when the value of dice is 1, this text will be displayed in the text view. So this is how our application is going to run. But now we also forget to do one thing. We also need to declare one more when statement, since there are 6 images that we are going to change according to the value that has been returned by this function. So also let us also make uh, when statement for this for changing the image of the image view. So we'll do the same thing. When dice lucky number, we'll first write it for the lucky number. When the dice is equal to lucky number, we'll simply write iv, which is the reference of the image view. Iv dot set image resource is the function which will help us to set the image which is present inside the drawable folder, and inside this we are going to write r dot drawable dot the name of the file. So since the value that the winning value or the lucky number is equal to 4, so here we need to have dice equal dice underscore 4. So now whenever the value will be equal to 4, the value stored inside the dice equal to 4, the image view will be changed by the dice image of the dice, which is going to have 4 at the top of it. So now let us make it for another values also. So when the value of dice is equal to 1, iv dot set image resource r dot id dot r dot drawable dot dice 1. So we'll do copy it for all other 5 values of the dice. So here we need to have 2, 3, 5 and 6, and we also need to change the value here: 2, 3, 5 and 6. So this is showing us some error. Create a drawable resource file. Okay, so let us check if the sixth image is copied inside it or not. So we can see that it is present here, but it is showing us some error. Okay, so the error has gone. Okay, so let it be. Now we have written the logic for our application inside this Kotlin file. Now let's try to run it in our emulator, and let's see if it works properly or not. So the Gradle build takes some time to run for the first time when we are going to. So it is showing us some error. So we made some changes here. So let us first, we created one file for, let us first delete it and let's see what is the error that is showing us. So okay, we'll again copy the image, the sixth image. I think all the images are copied by mistake. So let us copy it again. And let us paste it in the drawable folder. Okay, so now we have pasted it in the drawable folder, and let's see if the error has gone. Okay, so now I think it should run properly. So don't be worried, be patient. It takes some time for the first time when we run our application. So the Gradle build invocation has been finished, and now it is installing the application. So now you can see the application has come successfully launched. So now when I clicked on the button, you can see the dice has been rolled, but it is not looking nice. So let us make some changes in the XML file so that it looks nice. So for that, let us drag this button some more down, and also the text view. Okay. And as we can see that the image is also very big, so let's make it small. Okay, so now we have made the changes and now let us try to run it again and let's see how it looks now. Okay, so I think it looks nice now. Okay, so now I've clicked on the button and you can see that the 2 is at the top of the dice. So the text of this text view has changed and it says that it's 2, try again. So I'll click on the button again. So now it's 5 and now it's again 2. Okay, so you see that now the 4 has appeared at the top of the dice and the text view says that you have won the game. So this was the application that we wanted to make. So this was it for today. We studied some concepts of object-oriented programming and then we made a dice roller application. I hope it was clear to all of you. And in case if any kind of doubts, I'll leave my contact details in the chat box. Sorry, in the description. So and don't forget to follow us in various platforms like Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can see the username on the screen, and also don't forget to fill the feedback form. And for that, the link is in the description. So, goodbye, everyone, and have a nice day ahead.